Good evening to the audience connected from South Korea. It's 11 o'clock in the evening for them. Buenos días a los asistentes conectados desde México. Son las 8 de la mañana para ellos. Buena tarde a la audiencia conectada desde Cataluña. Son las 3 de la tarde aquí a España. Dir-vos que la sesión en inglés estará accesible y subtitulada en catalán a YouTube. Thanks to all of you who joined us in the first talk of the 2020 Material Farm edition, and welcome all of you who also join us today. Let me remind you that you will be able to see both talks on the Materfad YouTube channel. Our institution, the FAD, promotes best innovative and sustainable practices in the field of design and advanced materials. And after having explored sustainable food, nutrition, tourism, and body line marks in the two first editions of the Material Farm, this year, Materfad proposes to focus on analyzing and understanding through design and craft the opportunities thrown up by territorial resources as a strategy for a new sustainable global economy. As part of the Neomateria exhibition organized by Materfad, together with the Trade, Crafts and Fashion Consortium of the Catalan government, which is traveling around different Korean cities, thanks to the support of the Korea Institute of Design Promotion, Materfad is in touch with cutting-edge Korean and Catalan designers and artisans who have brought to light research projects in materials that will undoubtedly serve as inspiration for many other professionals worldwide. Seeking to gain a broader outlook from a territorial perspective, we have invited Mexican designers and artisans to share their projects too, thanks to the collaboration of the Universidad Autónoma de Aguascalientes. Thanks to the support of the CCAM, today we will celebrate the second and last of the two consecutive talks with the topics Vegetative Alive, moderated by Robert Thompson, Scientific Director of Materfad. He will introduce our speakers. Enjoy the session. Thank you.
Hi, everyone, and welcome again to the sessions of Materials Farm. This is the last session, and I want to give you a very warm welcome wherever you're at viewing this presentation. We are actually broadcasting across the world right now in 3 different time zones. And we have the exclusive and distinct pleasure of receiving some speakers that will be talking today about innovation, talking today about ideas, and perhaps even talking about change. Now, I am presenting here from the Materfad. Materfad is a center. We're located in Barcelona, Spain. Our specialty is in understanding materials, cataloging materials, even teaching about materials, and helping big, small, individual personalities towards innovation and application of intelligence through materials. I also want to give a very special warm welcome to our speakers. Today with us we have Lara Campos. Lara, she is a textile artist and designer. She's also a researcher. Her particular fields of interest are within the areas of technology and biology, perhaps the synergies between the two. And her focus is an ecocentric one. Currently, she works at Futures Wardrobe, and she's developing new and interesting applications for the industry and trends. With us today, we also have Sharon Alexandra Moran. She is an industrial designer from Aguascalientes, Mexico. And she will be talking today about a particular area of her specialties, which is the use of organic waste, especially from sectors like the flower industry, gardening, coffee industry, and to see how these materials can be put to use. Also joining us is Young Kim from South Korea. He is a designer. He is the founder and performing the art direction and also the brand identity processes that he founded in 2020, a new company called Young Studio. His particular areas of interest are also distributed in the user interface and user experience. The topic of today is to be talking about something very interesting, which is reality. Reality is shared among the different elements, among the different structures. And there is one element that had been and has been and probably will be one of the dominant players in the material phenomenon, and that is carbon. Carbon is a very interesting element because carbon has the distinct ability to form at least 4 connective unions with other molecules. Because of this very interesting geometric advantage, and because of the disposition of the way it connects in a tetrahedral format, has allowed carbon to become a dominant player even in biology. And so from a very kind of deep and philosophical sense, carbon has been the doorway towards intelligent life. And of course, when we speak about carbon, we're also speaking about animation. We're speaking about transformation. We're speaking about scale. And as we'll see today in our different projects, we will have a very good example of this. Plants are at the center of this discussion today because plants are the future. They've always been the future because they've always been the past. Plants produce food. They produce sugars. They produce fatty acids like oils. They also produce different textures and colors. They also produce pigments and medicines. They filter the air. They filter the water, and they give nourishment to the ecological systems, however various they may be. One of the particular aspects, however, of plants is that they produce cellulose. And we will be seeing different applications even of cellulose today in our speakers when they are presenting their projects. So maybe perhaps I could start. Lara, could you describe a little bit your project and maybe why and some aspects that you feel are interesting in your project?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Well, in the first place, I think the important thing about the vegetative world is the emotional response and all the how they make us feel as well, and how they make us, or they allow us actually to be alive, because they are the ones giving us the oxygen, right? So, well, should I share with you my presentation? One sec. So, well, Robert already introduced me. I go deep into sustainable materials, biodesign and technologies, and also the interspecies interactions. That is my approach. As a material-driven designer, researcher, and textile artist, I try to focus on the emotional response of everything I do. So, well, here are like a few images of different projects where I develop different perspectives on ecocentric design. And well, today we are speaking about vegetative alive. And my proposal is leading to the symbiocene. So Be Grounded is the name of my project. It explores the relationship between humans and other living organisms as an emotional and artistic manifesto through the textiles in this case. And it proposes the exploration of a new habitable space in the form of this woven garment you can see with the growing sprouts. And actually, I propose it as a sensory and interactive experience itself. So it's not just about wearing it, but about growing it as well. Well, here I share with you an excerpt from Encountering the Vegetal Being by Melissa Maria Lindskvist. And I think it matches exactly what I want to transmit with my project. It says art is paramount in this investigation because it allows us to experience, feel, and perform or visualize these alternatives of being, these non-humans. So through art, we can also experience how to engage with plants from another perspective, no? Like non-anthropocentrically. So we can explore the unique place of their being and attempt to avoid the instrumentalization role that we too often assign to them. This experience is something that cannot be done through theoretical imagination alone. So I think like doing this garment is a way of experiences this this feeling of being in touch with nature, being in touch with plants, being able to feel and to allow or lead us to an interspecies communication or relationship, maybe to create like a more empathetic relationship as well. Like idyllic is like an idyllic symbiosis, but actually it's not specifically a symbiosis. It's more like trying to get empathy for other beings and trying to relate with them. So here are some images of the research and development of the project, where you can see like the first samples with a few sprouts growing over there, mixing the wool. Actually, for the materials I use like proximity resources, so I use organic merino wool and different type of seeds depending on the project. So here you can see in the right, you have like plants, like the sprouts, which is like the exterior. But if you think about that, then the interior has the roots, and that is what is touching our skin. So it works as a third skin that also can work to benefit our physical and like mental well-being as well, no? Like actually the name of this project is Be Grounded, and all of you may know like the benefits of being in touch with the ground, in touch with plants. So it's just a manifesto to explode this idea, to rethink this idea. And it's not like it's not meant to be for fashion industry. It's not meant to be to use it out there. Actually, it's just about a manifesto. It's just about saying it louder and allow us to rethink how we relate with other beings. Also for the research and the development, you can see here in the right, I built custom tools. So I built a spinning machine that's from an open source hardware made by Studio Hilo from Berlin. And also I built like the loom I needed to weave my, in this case it was like a dress. And here you can see like the side view of the sprouts. Also, well, in the first place, this is not commercial, not for sale. It's just continuing with the manifesto, and the experience itself is the kit. I built a kit to explain how the process of growing is involved, how you can grow the garment, what do you need to do for the garment to grow. And actually, I think like the talk to them is actually like the most important thing I wanted to introduce into this user manual that is inside the kit. So then you can grow it and like also like be enthusiastic about the plants growing, the sprouts growing, and then wear and experience the garment. That is the most important part. So you wear it naked, you feel it, it smells like nature. Actually, it smells like grass. It's humid, it's moisturized. So it's a different way of exploring senses. I think it's well, actually, it's like new kind of feelings when you wear it, something that the human is not used to. And then obviously you can dispose the garment on the earth. Well, growing the material, this is super important to think about all the conditions in order to grow the vegetative, to grow the plants, to grow the sprouts. And is not just about like climate variables that are super important, but about, you know, being there, taking care of them, being with them like every day. And of course, there are certain conditions, as I mentioned before in the user manual. But it's a nice thing to see it growing. Actually, it's, I think, like in this project, the most nice part of it is like growing it, like seeing it, how it grows and how it develops. Well, speaking about material-driven design, well, design when guided by the materiality, as in this case, can give rise to infinite alternatives and also became a new mean to instruct an ecocentric present future. I mean, I say present future because I think it's coming very soon. Well, the needs for new materials, actually, they are reinvented all the time, and they come to nourish ourselves, to comfort us, to cover us, to delight us, to teach us, and even like to keep us alive. So combining knowledge and techniques from different kind of disciplines and also documenting each stage of the experimentation, obviously always guided by the properties and the behaviors of the material, is very important in this case. So you can continue the flow of your research depending on the outcome, no? And the actually also like the results you have and the emotional response you get out of each piece and of each test and of each prototype. Also, well, the exploration is usually with an iterative approach. So that means you have like different process and intervene the matter in different ways, like as many as possible as you can. And analyzing these results, as I said before, not just technical or functional, but also with the expressive discourse within it. So this leads to the storytelling and the emotional response generated by the final piece. And it allows us actually, and that's the important thing, I think, to rethink the current models that are around us and simulate the alternative futures through art. Well, I long to continue investigating and disseminating these alternative materialities, creating our pieces to imagine a future where we empathetically coexist with other organisms. And well, thank you all for hearing me. I will stop sharing my screen here.
Wow, that was really, really brilliant. Thank you so much, Lara, for all that that viewpoint, that, you know, the far away viewpoint, the big picture, right? This idea of emotion, and that I'm glad you said that word, you know, because emotion is the frontier, perhaps, of the future, right? Is how we deal with things, how we deal with things that die. How do we recover things that die? Do we recover things that die? You know, and if you're awakened from a conscious level, you will start to notice, right, the suffering of the world, the difficulties, perhaps. And if we can align ourselves with that cycle, then perhaps the choices we make will automatically fall into place. Like Sharon, I know you're thinking about this. I know you have thought about this, right? Do we collect those old flowers, those leaves, those coffee grounds, or, you know, those pebbles? Does it make any sense to you?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense to me, and I have thought about it a lot too. Yes.
I was wondering if you could take us through your journey, perhaps, explain to us what you're doing.
Okay, yes, let me share my screen with you. Okay. Okay, well, good day, everybody. I am glad to be here to talk about my project. It's about the making of a biocomposite based on organic waste. Okay, I have been researching and making biomaterials since 1 year ago. And when I started, I knew that I wanted my experimentation to be in a circular design structure. Okay, so if we talk a little bit about the circular design and economy structure, we know that this is a system of interactions between the economy and the environment. And it's a very important part, the sustainability of the final product that we design. That's why I chose to make it local and make an environmental contribution. Okay. And well, the objective of my experimentation was to generate a biomaterial through organic waste of local places. This thinking about replacing polyester, leather, plastic, and any synthetic materials in the fashion and design industry. Okay, the waste that was used for the biomaterial was from flower shops like petals and leaves, also coffee shops, and the coffee waste was used, and also fruit peels from markets, and grana cochinilla, that is a plague bug from cacti. And here, okay, well, the waste was a fundamental part of the physical characteristics and also the formal characteristics. For example, here, we can see the beautiful pattern that was made with the petals and leaves from the flowers. Okay, also here we can see a little bit of the physical characteristics that we got from the material. Okay. Here, by other hand, we have the material of the coffee waste. And here it was more plastic-like. Also, it was harder than the last one that I showed you. And as you can see here, we can appreciate also the textures that we can get from the natural resources. I think that is something amazing, that the natural resources give us like these textures, these formal characteristics so unique. And by other hand, one of my favorite waste or one of my favorite resources is the grana cochinilla that is from the cacti, because it gives us a lot of options for the formal characteristics, and also it has a very big impact in the physical characteristics. For example, here in this red material is a thin layer that looks very similar as fabric that you can buy anywhere. And by other hand, we have this purple material that has these two different textures in each side. And actually, the physical characteristics of this material are very similar to leather. And actually, I think the color is also like a beautiful purple, a dark purple, that I think is awesome how the same resource gives us these two different colors and these two different characteristics. At the moment of the process, something very important for me was to make a process very handcraft. You know, I wanted that the resources, the process, everything was so natural and so organic. So we could get this material, these organic materials, as an option to create objects of design or objects of fashion. And the results that I got are, well, actually were really good. We have this material that has different characteristics like elasticity, is waterproof, heat resistance, and also is biodegradability. So here, for example, you can see the physical characteristics. Okay, we can see the resistance of the material. And also, I really like how each material is so unique and so different. We can see it like maybe a mistake of the material, but actually I find it like another characteristic that makes them so unique. Here, for example, is what I was telling you, that we got these different textures and formal properties. We can have very thin materials. Also, we can have a little bit thicker materials. And I think the most amazing part about making a biomaterial is that you cannot exactly know what are you going to use it for until you got it. So in the moment that you got these materials, you know what can you do with them. So here, one of the options that we give for these kind of materials is to make fashion and design items, replacing the leather and the plastic materials that we have at the moment. So in the future, I hope to continue creating and also to create like a full material studio to give more options and to give more material for the design and the fashion areas. And I think that's it for the presentation.
Wow, Sharon, I like the colors, the purple, that leather, that feeling, right? I'm already imagining that as maybe, you know, a future style, or perhaps the way that we receive our packaging, you know. And really what we're looking at here is the thousand faces of cellulose. And you know, cellulose is this incredible sugar biopolymer, so abundant, and we have it in so many different scales. So we have like long fibers, then we have short fibers, then we have fibrils, then we have microfibers, and then we have nanofibers, right? We have these really small structures. And you know, Sharon, you're talking about water resistance, right? You're talking about resistance to heat, you're talking about elasticity. And these are all properties, and even transparency are all properties of nanoscaled microstructures that allow light to go through and things. But there's also the poetry, you know. And you know, the one of the most emotional sides that I've seen today was probably the work from you, Jung, is this idea of how do we make art, right? I've heard emotion, I've heard the word art, and maybe you could continue, because I think, you know, that piece that you made is so artistic, so beautiful. Could you talk about that?
Yes, sure, of course. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone from South Korea. I'm Jung, and okay. So now let me share my screen. So, okay, this was a collaboration project. I was working with fellow designer Katarina Horn-Jardemark and researchers from Rice Research Institute of Sweden. And today I will be talking about a project named Water Drops. So, okay, I think I'm starting from the most smallest scale, as Robert just mentioned. So my main material for the project is Nanocellulose. It's a light solid substance obtained from plant matter, which comprises nano-sized cellulose fibrils. Basically, it can be produced from any cellulose source material, but wood pulp is normally used. And it shows many different types of properties for various applications. It can be used for like almost everything: food packing, flexible electronics, insulation materials, and really lots more. For us also, before stepping directly into nanocellulose, we were kind of testing various plant-based materials, trying to make different types of bioplastic in the beginning. And then we met this material, nanocellulose. This is the one that we use for the project, CNF, cellulose nanofibrils. It's a gel-type material, and like 99% of it is water. And if you treat the gel and dry it in a very controlled condition, you can get a very even and flat film, which is a good form to measure properties. But however, we wanted to focus more on form giving, and we wanted to be like the whole process to be a very hands-on process. So after many different trials, we got to a quite basic and simple solution, which was using plaster. Plaster has been used for a long time in many different fields to control moist, because of course it absorbs water and dries quickly. Even if we could somehow make a form, it would eventually twist and bend because the surface would be like awfully bumpy and uneven in microscale. So as you can see in the photo, this chunk becomes a very thin film since 99% of it evaporates. So now the material itself was in the center of the whole process. Exploring what the material is was the main purpose. And we could have gone a bit further doing this similar thing, but for this project, and given a limited time, we decided to go through a bit of a reframing and put context into the core of our process. I believe that one of the most powerful strengths of design is understanding a context and giving form to it so that it can invite multiple audiences to engage in a specific situation. From the very beginning, human relationship with water was our overarching theme, and we have split the project into two. On the bottom left, on form, is more about finding and testing properties of nanocellulose, but focusing on the relationship between form and water at the same time. And on the upper right side, water drops. This goes with a presumption that using plaster is a well-defined method, and then we step out of the material itself and try to visualize a context where we can share our experiences related with water. To use the world well, we need to relearn our being in it, renew our awareness of belonging to the world. These words from Ursula Le Guin seem to be summarizing our message very well. Within the ecosystem, water is always circulating. It's easy to see the circulations. Raindrops fall and rivers flow. And it's the same for plants. More than 50% of a tree is made up of water. Water is always going in and out of plants. And plants themselves are also in a flowing circulation, growing, dying, and again sprouting. And us humans, we have been capturing and storing these resources, but maybe we are now interrupting and blocking the circulation a bit too much. For instance, plastic has been one of the main materials used as the container. About 60% of our body is water, and we also need water to survive. Maybe we really should try to find ways to flow along with the circulation of nature. Among infinitely many routes of water circulations, we wanted to capture a moment that could easily touch our memories, and we visualized the moments of raindrops falling on leaves and a pond. Here, the surface of the leaves are very uneven in microscale. So as the nanocellulose part dries out and gets hard, it gets really strong enough to bend the wires inside, which then turns to this shape, quite similar to a real dry leaf. And as it gets wet, the leaf spreads out again. Before showing a short video of the work, I would like to finish with this wonderful quote from, again, Ursula Le Guin. "We need the language of both science and poetry to save us from ignorant irresponsibility." Thank you, and now you'll see a video. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Young. That was amazing. I loved it. It was one thing I loved about your process is precisely one of those things that I'm particularly very kind of interested in and curious about, which is the clashing of these scientific capacities, right? Of all this invested energy over millennia of society and civilization trying and striving to survive, to come up with knowledge, right? The tool maker that can make the ultimate scale, that can make the ultimate degree of control, only to see it to be destroyed later by the entropy, right? And that brings us to this kind of poetic, and I think one very unifying element in all of these projects, which is who's in control, right? And what does that mean? And what does that mean to any one of us as designers, as human beings, or as people who are observing the reality? How much control do we have over things, right? We can take Lara's approach and say, I just plant seeds. I just plant seeds and let nature decide, perhaps, create the beauty that way. Or maybe I am the person that collects what's abandoned, and I remake poetry from that. And I am Mother Nature itself. And I can create things in the human way, or maybe it's literally, it is the expression of poetry. Now, I'm wondering, because all of these things have a fractal side to it in some way. Fractal, like plants create branches, but on the opposite side, they create roots. And when I was thinking about your project, Lara, I was thinking, this is amazing because the body is an organism. It emits carbon dioxide, and the plants feed off of that carbon dioxide and re-give oxygen to your lungs. Could this be a new way of breathing? I'm wondering.
Well, yes, I think we are heading that way, obviously, and it's actually super interesting, the symbiosis we can, like the explicit symbiosis you can have, like when wearing this garment, that actually is what's happening out there, but this is like so explicit, like in one body with this garment as a third skin, and actually it's a symbiotic system where we give them the carbon dioxide, and they are giving us oxygen at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And I was amazed at the way that you were able, Sharon, to put things together. Right now, I'm wondering the structures that you've created. The main agglutinant. What was that? Is it a gelatin? Is it like an agar-agar based, or is it really based off of something else?
Well, actually, it's very interesting how the natural resources react with the, how to say, like the base, because I have used the gelatin, I have used agar-agar, and I have used different kind of proteins like animal, but also like very vegetative bases. And I think each one gives us like a very different result. And I think that is one of the most interesting parts of the experimentation. So yes, I have used both, like gelatin and agar-agar. Mhm.
Yeah, I was wondering because you may want to look into the fact that there are all kinds of biopolymers now that are available, that can be actually generated as a fermentative process from
Yeah.
taking that very waste, for instance, and you can, because the waste that you're using is very carbon heavy, and it has some glycose, some xylose, there's some sugars in there that can be fermented, and we can use like the infusions of these bio-based with bio-based, because carbon and carbon has a very good interaction, and on some level you're keeping it kind of mono-elemental, like you're using the same elements, and I think this is also something that you're exploring, Jung, is this idea of water. This is like, it's such a difficult thing with bio-based materials, right? The patience that we have to things to dry out and to lose that natural solvent, the water. Like, what was that for you? Like, what element does that give you? The water. How did you play with that?
I just like remember this material scientist at Rice saying like it's this love and hate relationship between water with them, because it's so crucial to control the amount of water and how they need it. And actually, it was also kind of similar for us also, because uh, we were taught how to make like a perfect film to use it in a way whatever we want, but to do that we need days or weeks and specific conditions, and it was it took too much time, but also I think that wasn't really our main interest, because like as designers or craftspeople, we really wanted to somehow get our hands dirty and really like do some things with our own hands, and we just tried like whatever we had in the place. And even though like if you, in terms of like properties and evenness, it's a really bad surface that we made, but that unevenness and how it like wrinkles and how it bends and how it like changes, we just wanted to try to just actually embrace how that can be and change. And when we were just trying to think of how can we engage more people and try to just bring their own memories within this context with water, we just kind of found that it does kind of look like a leaf, and we added some more branches and some more wires. And I think it was kind of it was really fun to get to know the material, and kind of like a coincidence to use that as an artwork.
Yeah, I find it very interesting because the nanocellulose is very heavily, I'm assuming, do you use temp oxidized nanocellulose? Do you remember what type it was? Was it methoxycellulose or something like that? Do you remember the type?
We don't know specifically, but it was like
Okay.
mechanically made, that type
Yeah.
of nanocellulose.
Okay. Yeah, there's a teaching in this, which is, you can, cellulose is very hydrophilic. It loves water, and it's because of these chemical bonds that it can create with the polarization, like water's polar, so it creates this. But if we take it too far and we let it solidify, then it becomes water repelling. And I think this is really poetic, right? Because Lara, if we don't feed our plants, what happens, right? They die. You know, they stop being that state of matter. You know, and when you were presenting, I was thinking, well, why stop at clothing? This could be a new way of growing things, like in 3 dimensions, right? Or maybe rehabilitation of a desert. We could lay these flat surfaces and reinstill water. I mean, have you thought of other applications of your project?
Yes, actually, there's a documentary called The Grounded, I think, similar name, that they speak about how being in touch, like literally touching nature, the ground, etc., heals us. So may like energetically it like uncharges. I don't know if that's the specific word in English, but it like regenerates us, the energy in our bodies, and it's not just esoterical thinking. Like you can see the documentary and you can also think about it. So it's also like an experience itself, as it can be like meditation or something like that. So that's where I think of this project, if you take it to reality, you know, like using it as an experience to heal yourself, like physical and mental well-being.
Interesting. Now, while you were talking about that, I was thinking, you know, like nanocellulose, which is already, of course, produced in plants, is also an incredible reinforcement material. We can use nanocellulose even in, I think the studies that were conducted said that even with a 1%, all the way up to 5% maximum, if we add nanocellulose to like a biocomposite, like the one you're working on, Sharon, like could we make something that is like leather, you know, like is resistant to water, maybe it has really high strength, and because innovation is supposed to take over things that are old school. So a sustainable future could mean that our relationship with animals is very distinct and different. And so I'm wondering, like, if you could do that, like I'm wondering if you could add nanocellulose to your materials and create something high performance.
You know what? That's something that I have thought since day one that I started. And actually, I think is possible. And something that I like that you said, it was like this futuristic material. Because, for example, for me, it was very important in all the process to make it like very handcraft, but that doesn't mean that the quality was poor or something like that. No, the opposite. I wanted to create like this ancestral process, but to make this futuristic material, you know, that with waste you can get the same as the leather. And right now in the materials that I have made, is something possible. The characteristics are actually the same. Is what I said to people all the time. When they touched the material, they said like, did you make it with trash? And I'm like, yes, I did. But it's very impressive because the texture and the characteristics are really good. And I think it is possible in the future to make it in a big scale, so we can create all the objects that are already made with leather, but in a natural way. So yes, I think it's possible.
That's a fantastic way to answer that. Thank you so much. I mean, that's so true. I mean, I would like to get your feedback on that. Like, is it that the industrial world, right? What is industrially produced, is that just a symbol? Is it really true that it's better? In other words, are things not as good because they're made by man? Are we so obsessed about precision and speed that we cannot see the beauty in the smaller and in the more essential? I'm wondering if you guys have any ideas about that.
Well, actually, when I was working in this project, I work with a bio artist, and something that she said that I really liked it. It was that we as inventors, we can say, for example, we need to make our, well, she always said that we needed to make our kitchen our lab, okay? Because that's the handcraft process that we were looking for. And we can see, as you said, that the quality of the material that we create even in our kitchen is the same quality as the factories made, you know? So, yes, well, that's what I think.
That's a good word, like quality, right? Another word that I really like is luxury, right? What is luxury? You know, I mean, I see you smiling, Yunga. I mean, what do you think about when I say luxury?
I don't know, like so many thoughts. I think it has to be somehow connected with like, where does this norm or where does this standard come from? Like, is it really the people who use it, or does it come from the manufacturers, or why are the standards like the standards they are right now? Like, is it because they have to be efficient for manufacturing, be efficient for packing, be efficient for selling? They have to be standardized so that they can mass produce all over the world, and then they can use it all together. And I don't know, for luxury, I think that's another type of norm, maybe. So it can be also like connected with the industry, but I don't know, like it can also be going the other side, because now, like, if there's something very unique coming out from a hand, not matching the standard that comes from the industry, I don't know, maybe that can be another type of luxury. But I think it's all connected to the whole system. And if we think about the standards and where they come from, yeah, there's lots to think about.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of time when they want to do something in serious, not just like the quality, but like optimize time, and like what is time and why do we need to rush? Or also, like, on the other hand, is like these projects and many other projects out there are examples that may empower everyone to build their own things. So you don't need of an industry building something for you, creating something from you always. So there are some things you can do by yourself, even in your kitchen, as Sharon said, like different materials, you can build them yourself and do like your table, your lamp, whatever out of these materials. So I think the focus here is to empower us humans to build whatever we want to build with our hands, and feel all these textures and emotions when you are in touch with this kind of different materials.
That's nice also, because when I think, for example, me personally, when I think of luxury, I've never been oriented towards like high brands and things of that sort, just because I realized it was a concept. That's an economic concept. For me, like, luxury personally is more the idea of time, like having time, right? And not only that, but experiencing that time, right? I grow myself, so I know what it's like when you see a seed become a tiny, with the tiny cotyledons, and you see it grow, and it's striving, and it's rotating towards the sun, right? And it's so beautiful, and the material becomes an extension of your efforts, right? And I think so. I wonder, like, you guys are so wise, and I'm really feel honored to talk with you in different areas of the world. I think it's great that this generation is so much more sensitive to things that are real and things that are future based. I'm wondering, do you have any advice for all your fellow designers? What do you think? Any advice?
Well, I think one of the best advices that I can have for any designer that wants to start creating or start with experimentation is to don't be afraid to fail, because I can tell you that I failed a ton of times. Like when I started, my samples look like disaster. So at the beginning, I was thinking a lot of quit. I was like, should I continue? Should I stop? But I I continue because it was something that I was passionate about. And obviously, at the end, I was afraid to fail, but I put all my passion into it and I really believed in my project. And I think that is something that some designers could have, like the fear of failing, and also like don't believe in your own projects. So the advice that I can have is to believe in you, in yourself, and believe in your project, and don't be afraid of failing, because that is part of the process. Yes.
I
Mhm.
like that. Yep.
Yes.
Any other advice?
Yeah, I really like the advice Sharon just mentioned, and maybe a bit adding on to that. In East Asia, there's a philosophy called Taoism. Maybe some of you might be used to it, and this is a phrase that I really like, and I was just looking up it on my phone. So if I read it, see what is seen, not what you have to see or want to see. Be bold enough to flow along with the vagueness. And I think the sentence really kind of awakens me sometimes, because I think it's easy to get used to things that you are like educated, or how other people do, or how other things are, or what others say. And if I think it kind of helps if you're just aware of just like noticing or thinking about, is it really me, or is it really that, instead of just capturing yourself in these norms that are surrounding us. Yeah, I think that could be one thing that I would like to share.
Lara, I know you want to say the last words.
Yeah, so nice that phrase you read, Jung. Well, I was going to say, I think the opportunity of building a material, of creating a material, of material-driven design, is that you can guide the life cycle of whatever you are creating. So if you're speaking about sustainability, if you're speaking about creating a material, you can guide the life of your material. If it's going to last forever, is the use of that material is going to be forever, or if it's going to be for a while, then you can choose once you know the life you're going to give to your product or to your material, you can choose which materials to get involved with it, which ingredients to use in order for its life to last as it need to last, and then go back to the earth whenever they are disposed according to the time you're going to use it. We don't need to build objects that last forever if you're going to use them for 10 minutes. So I think that is important to study a lot, see the properties we want to get in our materials, and in that way choose the ingredients we're going to use to create them. I'm gonna say that.
Wow.
And play around a lot.
Yes,
ingredients.
play. We should play, absolutely. From the background, from the carbon, from the organization, the pattern, the protein, the structure, the intelligence, everything has aligned itself, right? We are the stewards of this world, and so we must take responsibility, but we should do it with courage, because as Terence McKenna once said, nature favors the courageous. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Have a nice day.
Bye.